Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep. And I can see you.
Okay, good. All right, man. Awesome. So, yeah, me and Rich were just talking about the whole video thing, and so I will probably turn off my camera once we get started here, and plus then you don't have to look at my messy. This is actually Addie's office. We are in the process of moving. Thank God that door is closed over there because there's all kinds of boxes and shit. So like next week, I think we're gonna be moving into a new office. So my background will not be as messy for next month's webinar. Anyway, oh, Big Steve is here too. I saw Big Steve a few days ago. In San Diego. Always good to see Big Steve. All right, so today, what are we going to talk about? So Rich Harshaw, if you guys don't know, is probably one of the smartest marketing people in the home improvement industry. This guy, can I share, Rich, a little bit of the conversation that you and I had a few weeks ago when we started to put this thing together?
Yep.
Or should I keep that between us?
I don't remember. I don't know exactly what you're about to say, but it's free game. Go for it.
So basically it was, that I didn't like you for a long time.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Go for it.
Okay. So Rich and I have a mutual friend. Some of you know Brian Elias from 1-800-HANSONS. And I've known of Rich forever, since like the early 2000s. And I won't go into all of that. But Brian Elias, for the last couple of years, has said to me, hey, you got to get with Rich. He's great. He's this, he's that. I said, yeah, Brian, I know, but I don't really like him that much. So, and I had a couple of reasons why. And then, so I finally relented because Brian is a very, very good judge of character. And Brian knows smart people. And so me and Rich reached out. We had like an hour and a half conversation. We were sharing like battle stories. And it turns out that my not liking Rich was misdirected. And so needless to say, I always, and I told Rich this, and I'll tell all of you this too, just because I didn't like him does not mean I did not respect the talent. And that was one of the first things I said to Brian, was that I respect the dude's talent because he is really very good. And so, but now we're good. So now not only do I respect Rich's talent, but we're good now. I don't not like him anymore. I like him now. He's on my good list of people. So I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but I just think it's a funny story and I thought I would share it with you. Now, what Rich is going to talk about here today is really, really important. And that's why we're doing this webinar. And that is talking about messaging. It goes beyond content. It's really all about messaging and about who you are to the marketplace. And again, this guy Rich is one of the best guys I know when it comes to developing your messaging. How do you show yourself out there to the marketplace? And so what this presentation is going to be all about is how do you develop that? And then how do you use it in your business to drive more leads, to convert more sales, make more money, and how to create good relationships on the back end, which, as you all know, that's what we do. We're all about, how do we take that customer that just paid you a whole bunch of money, and instead of ignoring them, right, how do you now create more of a sticky, what I call sticky relationship that's profitable, not just today, not just for the job, not just for the transaction, but how do you make that profitable for years? Because make no mistake, people, make no mistake. And I think Rich will tell you the exact same thing, is if you are working as a one and done company, meaning I get the job or I get a customer so I can get a job, your business is going to be on very shaky ground. What you want to do is you want to get the job so you get the customer, because the customer is infinitely more valuable than the job is. All right. And I hope you guys all get that distinction. And what's important about what Rich is going to show you here is that what you say at the beginning, from the very beginning, and then how you build that into your processes and build your business around your messaging is going to determine whether or not you are going to sell more jobs, make more money, and build a profitable relationship with your customer. All right. So, Rich, I hope that's a good setup. I don't know how much of your background you're gonna tell people here. You may want to, for the people that are here that don't know who you are, it might be a good idea to give them just like the 60-second version if you don't already have it built into this, just so they kind of know who you are. All right. Yep. So good. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn it over to Rich. I'm probably gonna jump in and out here, but this is a great presentation. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I think he added some new stuff in here just for you guys. And so, Rich, go ahead, man. Take it away. Thanks for being here, and thanks for doing this important presentation.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And if you can get my screen to share, I don't have a reference for if that's happening right now. Do you?
Yeah, you're on. We're looking.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're looking at your screen, man.
Perfect. Okay. Well, hey, by way of overview, I was looking through the attendees names here. By the way, just saw a bunch of people on here I know, and a couple of old names. John Woolston, I haven't talked to you in a long time, but funny thing, John, I was just pulling up your website last week, looking for some information about how to create a great About Us page and tell a story. So that's interesting. Old client of ours. Also saw Steve Renenkamp on here. Good to see you again. My background is real simple. I've been in business now as of November, a couple months from now, 25 years doing this marketing, consulting, advertising, copywriting thing. It was 2005 when I got contacted by Tim Mush over at MarketSharp. And I think most of you probably know MarketSharp, fantastic software, runs a good chunk of the remodeling industry right now. And he said, hey, I'd like to get you on teleseminars. 2005. They didn't call them webinars yet. And I said, okay, sounds interesting. I got on this teleseminar webinar thing. There's about 300 or 400 contractors on there. The material was interesting, apparently, to those people. I got a lot of good feedback, a lot of questions asked. And afterwards, I said to Tim, who's the marketing guru in this industry? Because I've been involved in lots of different industries, and they all seem to have gurus that they look at for marketing. And he said, well, we've got a lot of sales gurus. And he listed off a lot of the names that you would know. He said, but there's really no marketing gurus. And I said, well, let's take a look at this. So we started doing seminars. This was back 2005, 2006, into 2007. We did a series of seminars all over the country with MarketSharp as the premier sponsor and a few other companies that we brought in as sponsors. And I think we did something like 30 events in about a year and a half or 2 year time period, and really got to know the home improvement business well, got involved heavily in training, started a program. Originally, our company was called Monopolize Your Marketplace. We've recently rebranded to Level 10 Contractor. I'll touch on that later. But we started a program called the MYM Insider, and it was a training program. We did training based on webinars, about 10 webinars a month, and that was good. But we found that people, it was an annual subscription, and people after about 2 years would drop off, and we'd ask them, why did they drop off? And they would say, it has nothing to do with training. We love the training. The problem is we just don't have time or energy or really know how, even with the good training, to do it. And so we started getting more involved in marketing fulfillment services for remodeling contractors and home services companies. So by way of sort of making you familiar, we handle multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. We do a lot of radio and TV work. We write the ads. We get the ads produced, negotiate the deals. We also do a lot of web work, SEO work, things like that. The things that you would expect that contractors need in terms of marketing. Those are the things that we focus on. So I want to kick this content webinar off. Talk to Brian for a couple, 2 or 3 times back and forth. What can we talk about on this webinar? And I said, I'd really like to talk about what my core competency, what I'm really good at, what sets me apart from other companies in the marketing space that work with contractors, and that is content. And yes, we do TV advertising for our clients, and we do radio, and we do websites and SEO and stuff like that. And I'll show you examples of that stuff as we go through here. But what we really are is a content company. We know how to say things in a way that starts to resonate with people. And I ended up writing a book earlier this year called Unlocking Unlimited Lead Flow. And I'll talk to you about how to get a copy of that. Brian has graciously agreed to send those out to some of the folks on here. So we'll get those out to you if you're interested. Stay tuned for the rest of the seminar. But in this book, talk about heavily how to create this content. And that's what we're going to focus on here. So to start this webinar, I'm going to tell you a story. And, the truth is, all marketing is really just storytelling. So I'm going to start with a story of my own. And the story goes back to 2005. Some of you have been around and know me, have heard me speak, know this story, but it's always a good one. And it's really where things start. It goes to 2005. I was driving across country with my entire family, which consisted of 6 children between the ages at that time of 6 months to 12 years old. And we were driving along with my wife from Dallas, Texas, where we lived at the time, to Boise, Idaho, where my in-laws lived. It's about a 26-hour drive, give or take, depending on how rowdy the kids are. And this was 2005. So you got to remember, we didn't have cell phones that had internet on them, things like that. So when it got time to stop for the day, we couldn't just go online and book a hotel. We certainly couldn't book a hotel ahead of time because we didn't know how far we'd get before we got tired of the kids. So as we're driving on that second day, we got to Ogden, Utah. And if you know anything about Ogden, Utah, as you're traveling north, it's kind of the last thing that you hit before you get it up into no man's land in northern Utah and southern Idaho. And you might be another 2 or 3 hours before you find a decent hotel to stay at. So it wasn't quite late enough, but we thought we probably need to stop. So we pulled over at kind of the last exit there in Ogden, and there was, about 5 or 6 hotels. And so we started looking, and, my wife's very picky about hotels. So like this old crusty, like wagon wheel motel, not a good fit. This old Howard Johnson's, not a good fit. But we saw one that looked like it was pretty new, probably pretty clean. It was the Holiday Inn Express. So we go in that hotel, I'm asking the clerk, to have rooms. They did, that was good. So we started to check in. And as I'm checking in, they had this little sign on the counter right there next to the check-in. It was, those little plexiglass 8.5 by 11 where you can slide in a sheet of paper. It said, "Welcome to the Holiday Inn Express, home of the Stay Smart bathroom, featuring the Stay Smart shower head by Kohler." And there was this picture of this giant shower head on there. And I looked at it for a second, and I thought, okay, whatever, it's a shower head. I didn't pay that close attention to it, but I did notice it. I'm a marketing guy. I'm trained to notice things. We check into the rooms. The kids start going crazy. They've been cooped up in a van all day. And as we're kind of getting settled, I look next to the television, and on the dresser, there's another sign. It's a second sign now, and it says, "Welcome to your room. At your earliest convenience, check out the Stay Smart bathroom featuring the Stay Smart shower head by Kohler." And here it is again, a big picture of this shower head. And I think, well, that's interesting. Again, I'm a marketing guy, so I'm intrigued. I walk into the bathroom, and what do I find on the bathroom? On the counter, there's another sign. It's now the third sign. And this is on the vanity there right next to the sink. It says, welcome to the Stay Smart bathroom, featuring. And then it had 4 things listed. The first thing was oversized plush bath towels. And I looked at them and kind of gave them a little squeezer, and they felt, oh, that's kind of a nice towel. All right. Number 2 was a bowed out shower curtain rod. Now, in 2019, that's not that big of a deal, but in 2005, that was a pretty big innovation. You know, it kind of gives you a little more room in there, keeps other people's naked off you, so that was good. Number 3, designer toiletries. And I looked at them, and you know, the little bottles of shampoo and lotions and stuff, it looks very fancy. Maybe it was French, I don't really know. Found out later that they'd created their own fragrance for that, so that was pretty fancy. And of course, number 4 on that list, on that sign, on that counter, on that vanity, the Stay Smart shower head by Kohler, and there was a picture of it. So I turned to look at the Stay Smart shower head, and I couldn't see it because the shower curtain on that bowed out shower curtain rod was closed. So I pulled it back, and I want you to kind of imagine this with me now, like the curtains of heaven, the angels sang, the lights came out, and there it was, the Stay Smart shower head. And you know how I knew it was the Stay Smart shower head? I'm going to show you. Because as you see on your screen, there it was, and it had a sign hanging from it telling me, here's the Stay Smart shower head by Kohler. And it listed 3 different settings: rejuvenating, relaxing, revitalizing. And I did the only thing I could think of. I closed the door, I locked it, I got in the shower, I took a shower, even though the kids were going berserk in the other room because, hey man, marketing. I had to try this thing out. Well, here's the interesting thing about this. And this story is going to serve us well. I'm going to leave it here after I give you a couple more comments, and then we're going to circle back around to it as we get a little further down the road. But here's the interesting thing about this. They did surveys on this shower head. And at that time, in the early 2000s, 2004, 5, thereabouts, Holiday Inn Express wanted to differentiate themselves by the bathroom experience punctuated by the shower head, this Kohler shower head. And they did surveys to ask people, what did you think about, and then think about just a typical survey. They didn't say, hey, what did you think about the shower head? What they did is they said, what did you think about the following things about our hotel? And then you could rate them from 1 to 5, okay? And then they asked about lots of things. So you didn't know that they were trying to hone in on shower head. They asked about the parking lot and the friendliness of the people and the checkout time and the cleanliness and the firmness of the bed and the pillows and the breakfast area and the pool and all the things that go along with a hotel stay. And wedged in there were the questions about the bathroom, towels, the shower head. And they found that before they started promoting the shower head, now they had the same shower heads, but they weren't promoting them with these signs. They found out that people rated the shower head about 4.45 stars, like almost 4.5 stars, after they started promoting it and pointing at the shower head using the signs. Remember, at the check-in, on the dresser next to the TV, on the vanity in the bathroom, and like on your screen, actually hanging from the dadgum shower head itself, they found that they got the rating up to 5 stars. 5 stars versus 4.5 stars, exact same shower head. The difference is that they took the time, effort, energy, and money to point at that shower head. So this is the overriding concept that we're going to take into our discussion today is how do we identify in your business what the quote-unquote shower head is. It's an analogy at this point, okay? You don't need to literally have a shower head. And then we're going to talk about how do we point at it so people notice it and give you credit for it so that you can then stand apart from the crowd, okay? That's the whole idea of what we're here to do today. So if you'll follow me on the screen, here's what you'll see. There's all of these green apples, and you want to be the one red apple that just stands out, right? There's what, 25, 30, 40 in your marketplace, how many different remodelers that you compete against. And you'd like to think, yeah, I want to stand out like this red apple. And you think that what is happening right now is, yeah, we're different, we're better, we do all these things great, our competitors are not as good as us, we're awesome, we've been in business for 47 years, we have lots of good reviews, people love us, and you feel like we're this red apple in this giant basket of green apples, and that people can look at that and instantly say, there's the one that I want to do business with. But the reality is, here's what's really happening. You're just another green apple. And you hear that, and maybe get a little bit probably offended is not the right word, but maybe a little bit put out, and you think, no, you don't understand, Rich. We are different. We are better. We do perform, on a different level. And here's the problem with that. People don't know that you're different and better unless you take the time and in a very compelling way, point at the things that are different so that they can know what's different. But here's what we find. Most marketing is just full of platitudes. As a definition for you on the screen, platitude, words, phrases that are drearily commonplace, predictable, that lack power to evoke interest through overuse, repetition, that are nevertheless stated as if they were original or significant. Things like, we've got the best service, we've got the highest quality, we've got the largest selection, free estimates. Here's my favorite. We've been in business since 1431 BC. As if somehow just having been in business a long time somehow makes people automatically draw a conclusion that you're different and better. You'd be shocked, maybe you wouldn't be shocked, in fact, you probably wouldn't be shocked, the number of $2.3 million companies that do siding, roofing, windows, gutters, whatever, bathroom remodeling. The number of those companies I find that are doing $2.3 million and have been in business for 47 years. Now think about that. If you've been in business for 47 years and you're doing $2.3 million, here's what that means. You've not found a way to grow, or you don't want to grow. And usually those companies get most of their business from repeat and referral business. Now that sounds like a positive thing, and it is good. Obviously repeat referral is good. Here's the problem with it. It's not scalable. And it doesn't allow people outside of that immediate circle of repeat and referral business to understand who you are, how you're different, why you're better, why they should do business with you. So that's what we're going to talk about, is how to break past these platitudes and get to, something stronger, which is what we call identity. So on the one hand, you got platitudes. On the other hand, you've got identity. So let's do a quick Google search. I did a speaking assignment earlier this year. I think it was over at James Hardie. And I said, hey, I'm going to go Google James Hardie siding in Dallas so that I can show you the sites that come up, and I'm going to put them on the screen, and I'm going to show you that these companies that come up first, I'm not going to cherry pick. I'm going to just take the first, second, and third ones that come up, and I'm going to put them on the screen to show a point that the websites don't allow these competitors, these contractors, to stand apart from each other. And they said, yeah, Rich, we really wish you wouldn't do that because it could embarrass our dealers. And I said, fine. So I took those out and I used a different example of window companies in New Haven, Connecticut, or something like that. But I put them back for this webinar. So let me show you what happens if you type the words into Google, Dallas James Hardie siding. Here's the first thing that comes up, this thing called Allied Siding and Windows. Now, here's what I want you to evaluate. We're evaluating, is this website full of platitudes? Remember, platitudes are words or phrases that are drearily commonplace, boring, that lack the power to evoke interest through overuse and repetition, but are used anyway. So let's take a look. Allied Siding and Windows, Irving, since 1988. What is that, 31 years, 41 years? I can't keep track of how old I am. I think that's 31 years ago. We've serviced over 40,000 satisfied customers with home improvement projects in Texas. Allied Siding and Windows installs more Hardie plank siding than any other company in Texas. Now, with sales and production teams in Houston, Dallas, and Austin, Allied Siding and Windows is equipped to deliver award-winning products. And guess what? High-quality service. Now, here's what I want you to think about and kind of juxtapose this. What if your sales guy walked into the house and this is what he said? What if he said, we've been in business since 1988 and done over 40,000 satisfied home improvement projects in Texas, and we've installed more Hardie plank siding than any other award-winning quality and service. You'd fire the dude because that's a dumb thing to say. Not that those things are inaccurate. It's not that those things are not true, although I don't know if it's true that they've done the most, because if you've never noticed before, every single Ford dealership is the highest selling Ford dealership in Texas or whatever state you live in. Nevertheless, these are platitudes. Now, keep this in mind as we go to the next one. This is the second one that came up in my search, RJ Construction. Okay, got a picture. That looks nice. If you go down, I'm going to, the next image is going to be scrolling down. So this is what happens if you scroll down. Now, besides the fact that it's hard to read because it's on this kind of weird gray thing with all these words and stuff behind it, here's what it says. Hardie board siding is made by James Hardie and is also known as cement board siding. James Hardie is America's #1 brand of siding. Hardie Board siding is installed on over 5.5 million homes, and their siding products combine the warmth, character of wood, and the durability of low-maintenance fiber cement. Why would anybody ever search Google for James Hardie siding if they didn't already have at least a decent idea that they wanted James Hardie siding? What they're looking for is, who should I buy it from? And these two websites don't do anything to help a person make a decision. If you look down there at the bottom, you see where it says Hardie Plank Lap Siding and then Hardie Shingle Siding. I did a little research and found that was just copied directly off James Hardie's corporate website. Let's go to the third one. Millen Home Construction. Replacement Siding Fort Worth, James Hardie Siding Dallas, Hardie Board, Hearst, Southlake, Flower Mound, Grapevine, and Keller. So what's happening here is we're doing a lot of keyword stuffing, and we're trying to talk to Google so that we rank high, which worked apparently because this was the third thing that came up, but we're doing a horrible job of talking to humans. So there's always these two parties involved in every online scenario, which is Google and humans. And a lot of companies and a lot of individuals that are involved in like search marketing and stuff like that, they're good at talking to Google. They understand sort of how to talk to Google, but they're really not good at all in talking to humans. And I've got news for you. Google's never going to buy anything from you. Humans are. So we've got to balance this. Most companies lean really heavy into Google and not at all into humans. What you want is you want to lean into Google and you want to lean into humans. And the human part of this is super important because it's going to affect all of the marketing. See, we're not here today to talk about websites. I just use websites because they're easy to find. It also happens to be probably the most important marketing tool that you have. So it's easy and good to use as an example, but understand what we're talking about, the way that we're going to create content is going to be usable for all of your marketing, whether that be your website, your SEO efforts, advertising, whether that's radio, television, online, Facebook advertising, your home show, handouts, mailers, all of it is going to be dependent on knowing how to talk to humans in a way that makes sense, okay? And these websites are honestly a giant fail, okay? Oh, by the way, guess what? Here's that exact same content that we saw on the previous website, copied from James Hardie's site, pasted onto this site as well, because they don't know what to put, okay? Here's what it sounds like. You remember Charlie Brown when you were a kid watching the cartoon, you know, Christmas special, Thanksgiving special, whatever, and the adult would talk to the kids and it would sound like this, wah, 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 wah. This is what your marketing sounds like when you communicate in platitudes. And I've got bad news for you. You know, I kind of hate to make comments like this, but I got to just keep it real. I've looked at hundreds and thousands of websites, marketing pieces, advertisements, you name it. And it's almost all, let's round it to like 99.9% full of platitudes. And it sounds like Charlie Brown's mother. So then here's what happens. Here's the really bad thing that happens. Then because companies decide, well, we can't really, you know, say anything different or better. So what we'll do is we'll start to compete on promotions, and we'll go with our 6 windows, you know, buy 6 windows, get 3 free, and 13% off if you call today, and free upgrade to Granite. And you know what? There's a time and a place for all of that. Don't hear me and draw a conclusion that I just said never use promotions. But do hear me loud and clear that if that's the only thing that you're really competing on, and the other things that you're competing on are platitudes, and so they're not really moving the needle at all, then what you're really doing is you're training the marketplace to buy based on who's got the best offer. And that's a horrible, horrible place to be. What you want to be is a company that people understand who you are, how you're different. Well, let's just go to the definition of identity. It's on this slide. Words, phrases, and images articulated with power, precision, and passion. Remember those 3. Jot this down. Power, precision, and passion that instantly and definitively communicate, instantly and definitively communicate who you are, how you're better and how you're different and better, and what customers can expect when doing business with you. So here's just a good test for you, kind of a self-audit. Pull up your website or pull up your most recent mailer or look at your home show materials Or look at the most recent TV commercials that you produced or radio ads that you created and ask yourself, do they have power, precision, and passion? Do they instantly and definitively communicate the following: who you are, how you're different and better, and what customers can expect when doing business with you? Because if they don't, then what you've got is a platitude situation on your hands. Okay? Now, we're going to circle back to the shower head right now. And we're going to talk about a principle called confirmation bias. People look for evidence to support what they already believe, and they ignore or they minimize evidence that goes against what they believe. Okay? This is what makes politics go around. So we put a picture of Donald Trump on the screen, and that's going to create a very visceral reaction for most people. Most people are either convinced that he's doing a great job. Yeah, we know that his, moral character, whatever, but man, he's getting the job done, right? Or you look at him and you think, oh my gosh, it's, Satan / Hitler / Nazi / end of the world, right? And what happens is every piece of information that you see about this person, you run it through a filter, which is I hate him, or a filter that is I love him. And what you end up doing is you ignore, minimize evidence that goes against your beliefs, and you look for evidence proactively to support what you believe. And it goes the other way too. So we put a picture of Hillary, we could put a picture of any of the current Democratic candidates on here. And it's the same kind of a thing. It's the same thing that allows parents to believe that their children are good, even when faced with overwhelming evidence of finding marijuana in their room, because that was somebody's cousin's friend's brother from, Colorado that brought that here. And I don't even know who they are or how it got there. And you say, oh, okay. Yeah. And this is where we get the shower head, right? So bringing it full circle from the beginning, if you point at the shower head and you tell people it's great, then what they're going to do is believe that it's great, and they're going to give it credit, and they're going to notice it, and they're going to look for evidence to support it. So what will happen now is when people go to use that shower at the Holiday Inn Express, instead of completely not noticing the shower head, see, most people will only notice the shower head if it's particularly poor, if it's calcified, if it's disgusting, if the water pressure is terrible, if it's too high to reach or it's too low and it's, awkward. But in most cases, in 80 to 90% of the cases, people are never going to notice it at all. And I want you to think about all the things that you do in your company that are good and awesome and that you've spent so much time, effort, and energy to perfect and to do well. And the reality is people aren't even noticing them. So what we've got to do is find them, isolate them, identify them, and then point at them with power, precision, and passion so people know who you are, how you're different, how you're better, what they can expect. And we want to do this ahead of time. Usually what we find in remodeling marketing is that it's historically been a very sales-driven industry, meaning, hey, just get me in front of the prospect and I'll close, 30, 40, 50, 80, up to, I think, what's Rodney Webb, like 93%. The problem with that, well, let me give you a quote. Write this down. It's not on the slides. Write it down. Victory goes to the one with superior forces at the point of contact. Victory goes to the one with superior forces at the point of contact. And normally in this industry, historically in this industry, the most important point of contact has been the sales meeting. And what I'm going to urge you to do is to take the points of contact of your website, your advertisements, your home show, your everything that you do. If you're canvassing, what you say when you open your mouth, what you leave on the door. If you're at the home show, what's on your booth, what's on the little pop-up banners, what's on the things that you hand out. If you're doing shared mailers in Valpak or RSVP or Home Mag, what it's saying in there. All of this needs to have your shower head identified and pointed at, okay? So here's the questions, kind of to take you through this process. So you do things really, really well. What do you want people to know about you? The reasons that your customers love you, what you want to do is identify them and articulate them so it's impossible to miss. If they don't immediately if they can't tell what to expect, you lose. If you have to tell people, you have to tell people what to expect. This is pointing at the shower head. I mean, it's just that simple. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through this process and show you how to do it now. So that's kind of the identification of what the problem is. It's a general, in general terms, what the solution is. But now I'm going to kind of take you into the weeds and show you how to actually do this, okay? First, a case study. This is a company called Upscale Remodeling up in Ithaca, New York. Found that this company had, sort of a typical crap-looking website. and just very full of platitudes. I don't want to spend a ton of time reading through this. You can look at it and tell it's full of platitudes, you know, make sure it's done right. So I did an interview, what we call an identity discovery session with this company. And here's what I found. They're detail freaks, almost to the point of OCD. And I asked them, so give me examples. Tell me some stories of time when your OCD kicked in and when your detail orientation really, you know, served the customer well. And they started telling stories about going to extraordinary lengths to find just the right pull knob for kitchen cabinets when the homeowner looked at them and said, yeah, I like them, but they could tell by the tone of her voice that she didn't really love them. And so they went to 5 different places in a different city because their town was small, Ithaca, and they didn't have as big a selection. Just stuff like this to just help me understand who they were. Their customers love them, but their website makes them look like every other remote. Remember, green apples, red apples, they're just all green apples. So we tried to fix that. So here's what we came up with, and I'll show you a little bit more of this later. You can look it up yourself on your own, upscaleremodeling.com. But here's what we came up with. This top part where it says we're hyper strict on installation standards, that's what we call a slider. So after a few seconds, it slides and a new image, and a new headline comes in. But this is the first one. We're hyper strict on installation standards. Every little detail, down to the last nail, is carefully considered. Now, I want you to just think about this in terms of the definition of identity: power, precision, passion, that allows you to instantly and definitively understand who this company is, how they're different and better, and what people can expect when doing business with them. Now read the header again. We're hyper strict on installation standards. Every little detail, down to the last nail, carefully considered. Then if you read the main part, welcome to stress-free, quality first, not done until you say it's done remodeling. Successful remodeling doesn't happen by accident. It's deliberate, measured, and absolutely on purpose. We're sticklers for details. We obsess over perfection. So we're not the fastest and we're not the cheapest, but we are, according to our clients, we're simply the best. Does that make sense? Now, here's the question for you. Can you tell by looking at this web page, first of all, is there or is there not power, precision, and passion? Can you instantly and definitively tell who they are, how they're different and better, and what you can expect when doing business with them? Now, here's an interesting byproduct of this that I want you to really internalize, and I want you to think about it, and it should make you feel good tonight when you go to sleep, if you can figure out a way to pull this off. Here's what we're doing. Usually, it's a little more subtle than this. This is a little more in your face, but here's what we're doing. We're price conditioning. Now, question for you, by show of hands, raise your hands high. I know I can't see it because it's a webinar, not a seminar, but if this was a seminar, I'd ask you, raise your hands high. Who in this room has high prices compared to the marketplace? Who has high quality and high standards compared to the marketplace? And usually it's about 80 to 90% of the room, and the other people are sleeping because we're tired, I guess. So question, is that you? And if it is, here's what we want to do. We want to start to price condition at every point of contact along the way. Remember, victory goes along with superior forces at the point of contact. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to let people know, here's how we're different, here's how we're better. We take this now, we can put it into a brochure. This brochure is handed out ahead of an appointment that has been scheduled. We give this to people at home shows. In any scenario where you would hand a pamphlet. Now, by the way, this is an oversized, so it's a little bit bigger. I believe that's something like 5 inches across instead of the standard, you know, skinnier one. So it's a little bit bigger, but here's what it says: stress-free, quality first remodeling. On the back of it, you can see how it folds. This is the back. Here's what our customers have to say. So we've got, but look at the headers on what our customers have to say: accessible, courteous, no pressure; responsive, high quality, good follow through; a pleasure to work with, quality, responsive, tidy. And then the next one: after several projects, we enthusiastically recommend Upscale. We're telling a story, and we're pointing at shower heads just through the use of these clever headers on these testimonials. And then on the left side of the back, you see Upscale is your choice for craftsman quality remodeling, and then it says what they do. Let's flip to the other side of this brochure. Got the beautiful picture, of course, and on the left, we've got the owner, Steve Nash, saying it's not done until you say it's done, period. We're sticklers for details. We obsess over perfection. If you read the text of that, it becomes a very interesting story. It says, does it really matter how a remodeler feels about remodeling? It's kind of a weird question, I know, but it's an extremely important one. And then it talks about how he started by loving remodeling. He worked for his father and his grandfather. He learned it as a child. He grew up just being enamored with this thing. It tells a story. What to expect when you hire the best. And then we've got some items there at the bottom on the left. We're not the fastest. We're not the cheapest. Our passion is to be the best. Visit our showroom. Look at the caption on the photo over here on the right. We specialize in even better than I imagined. So here's what we're doing. If you remember at the top of this webinar, I said that marketing in its purest form really is just storytelling. So what we're trying to do is tell the story, okay? Now here's how this works. We create an identity based on the elements that you're good at and that you do well, and then we take that as the foundation, sort of the hub, and we put it into your website and everything else that you do, whether it's ads, mailers, TV, radio, home show, phone scripts, your in-home sales. You'll see that one at about 11 o'clock there that says your bread and butter. Here's what bread and butter is. It's whatever you're good at and you're doing right now to generate leads. Every company has bread and butter lead generators that they can count on pretty much week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. Whatever you're good at, if you can inject and introduce identity into it, guess what? It's going to work even better, okay? So let's discover your identity. We'll go through this pretty quickly. All right. Step one, what makes you tick? What do you do that your customers like, you take pride in, right? You can see this. What are you really good at? What are you absolutely unwilling to fudge on? This is a good question. You know, this is something that we really look for in working with companies. What is it that you just, if a company came to, if a customer came to you and said, yeah, look, I heard your story, but I want you to do it this way instead of the way that you do it. Would you tell them no? Okay. What makes you tick? Write it down. Now, here's what we've done. We've been in this industry for a long, long time. We've identified about 60 identity points that we then go in and try to map against a given customer that we're working with, one of our clients. Now, here's some of the points. Core values. There's 4 categories I'm going to share with you. Core values, bedside manner, workmanship, and other elements. Now, I think there's probably about 40 or 50 on this list, and I don't want you to read through all of them necessarily. I'm just trying to give you an idea that we know what these identity points are, and the key then, like I said a minute ago, is to map these to who you are and what you do already so that we can then start to focus in on certain ones of these. Now, the one that you see in blue says products themselves, and this is the thing that most companies spend all of their time and attention trying to differentiate themselves. I mean, I've heard this a million times. Oh, we've got the best window. It's so much better. Our window's better. Our window's better. Our window's better. It's better. It's better. We're the only ones that have it. It's exclusive to us. And, you know, that's good. I'm happy for you, but we want to go beyond just the product to start telling the entire story. Now, some of the things that I put in red, these are some things that map a little more closely with some of the things that G4 Marketing is leaning into. Customer relationships, kindness, the reputation and the relationship that you have with the client. These are some of the things that G4 services are really going to map well to. So if some of the things that your company does well are some of the things in red, then you're going to be even a better candidate than average for leaning into G4's services in terms of some of their customer retention, referral generation, gift giving, and those kinds of things. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. The second step, so step one was to identify what it is that you're good at. And then number 2 is build a case. Imagine you were put on trial and you had to prove that you were blank. Well, what goes in the blank? Well, the answer is these things, but not all of them at the same time. You know, when you build a case, you got to do it point by point. So if you had to prove that you have best communication, how would you do that? Could you produce evidence? Do you have stories to back it up? Can you provide witnesses that would corroborate your story? Be as specific as possible. You can't use platitudes, okay? And then we want to create social proof and evidence that proves that. Online reviews. Remember on that brochure I showed you, we didn't just put customer reviews. We actually mapped those reviews to identity points. Real customer references, project photos with captions or videos, case studies, award and accolades. Your About Us page is an important one. But you have to explain this stuff to the jury. You can't just say, hey, we've got a great reputation You can't just say we've got, you know, whatever it is you have. You've got to explain it to the jury so that they understand, the jury being your prospective customers. Step 3 is to integrate this concept of power, precision, and passion. Here's what I found. If you speak with power, people will believe you're powerful. They're going to be drawn to you. Your character and competency is not questioned when you speak with power. When you speak with power, you stand out from the crowd. Now, I'm going to use an example. I used to use this example all the time, and then the example became really not usable, but I'm going to use it anyway. Before Donald Trump was involved in politics, I used him as an example on this slide. I would say he's a person that speaks with power, so people believe he's powerful. They're drawn to him. His character and his competency are not questioned. That's a little hard to remember now because so many people hate him and they think his, you know, policies and personality are so messed up. But think back to before he was a candidate. Everybody loved him. All of the people that now hate him used to love him because he just exuded this power because of the way that he conducted himself. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying conduct yourself as if you were Donald Trump and, you know, have his similar behavior. I'm saying there's a principle that says you will exude power if you speak in a powerful, authoritative way. So now we take all this stuff that we've just identified through these steps, and now we're going to go through and integrate it into your marketing. And we're going to spend a little time on websites. Don't want to spend a lot of time. I wouldn't say we're short on time right now, but we certainly don't have a million years. So I'll go through this kind of quickly. The first place I want you to put this information is into your website, because this is where the majority, I don't think majority, all of your potential customers are going to check you out online. So if you can build a case online and you can have power, precision, and passion online, and you can, you know, point at your shower head repeatedly so people know who you are, how you're different, and why you're better on your website, it's going to serve you really, really well. So I showed you this earlier. This was the website from Upscale Remodeling. You remember the first slider. This is the second slider. We focus on every single detail of every single job. That's how we guarantee 100% satisfaction, start to finish, no exceptions. I want you to think about the power, precision, and passion of this statement. We focus on what? Every single detail of what? Every single job. That's how we what? Guarantee 100% satisfaction. How? What kind of satisfaction? Start to finish, no exceptions. This is powerful language. Here's another one. Our warranties have backbone and teeth, not loopholes. When we say it's covered, you can take it to the bank. Again, the shower head we're pointing at is the warranty, but we're doing it with power, precision, and passion in a way that it comes alive to telling the story. We're using interesting, powerful words. We're hyper strict on installation standards. This is the one that you saw originally. I'll go past it quickly. Consistent, clear communication is our calling card. Always know your job status. No unpleasant surprises. Whenever. Okay, you get an idea for power, precision, passion. That's what we do. Okay, that's how it works. I already went over this with you earlier, so I'm going to go past it quickly. Let's see. This is on the About Us page. Trust is a matter of both character and competency. We're not just good at what we do. We're good people too. And then on this page, we talk about, you know, how they're good people. I'm going to encourage you to go to this website and just take a look around. It's called upscaleremodeling.com. You can go check it out. This is a page that offers some evidence. This is case studies. We've profiled a few of our customers, get a behind the scenes peek at how we work and what we do. And then we've got the Gossets and the Hendricks. And when you click on those, and you can actually do this on the website, you'll see that there's a story with photos of the Gossets and of the Hendricks and of the before, during, and after of their job, telling what they did, what their problem was, how we fixed it, and what they thought about it. Telling stories, okay? Another website. This website just launched this last week. Go check this out, Ameritech Windows. It's ameritechwindows.com. Anyway, the absolute best windows in Colorado. This is a triple pane window company. And then, you know, when we go in to talk about triple pane windows, you know, we do it again with power, precision, and passion. We don't have a lot of time to go through this in detail, but I am going to encourage you to check these out for yourself. You can go to servicechampions.com. This is a client of ours. You can also go to servicechampions.net, two different companies that are, one is a licensee of the other, Southern California and Northern California, respectively. This is work that we've done that you can see inside these websites. Jericho Home Improvements, there's that Ameritech Windows, Upscale Remodeling. There's several others, but those are a good place to start so you can kind of see this for yourself. The next step then is SEO. So, well, what does SEO have to do with this? Isn't SEO just trying to get found by Google? Well, yes and no. It is about getting found by Google, but here's what else it is. It's about getting found by Google and then people liking what they find so much when you get found by Google that they stay on your page longer, so that Google will then raise you up in the search standing. See, here's what most people don't realize is that the number 2 thing that Google is looking for in terms of determining who to put high in the rankings is how long people stay on your website when they find it. This is being measured by Google. You know that, right? The number 1 thing is just what's the sheer volume of traffic to your website. And that's hard to compete if you're a smaller guy, because the big companies are spending $1 million something on advertising, and they're driving all this traffic to their website, and they've been around for a long time, and they've got all this online traffic, and things are, just traffic. But here's what Google is also looking at very carefully. Okay, great, you got all this traffic, but how long do people stay? And if people go to your site and they don't stay long, that's a problem. And the reason that they don't stay long usually is because the content on there is leaning heavily into Google, but not into, remember earlier, humans. So we've got to bridge that gap, and we've got to create content based on your identity that people will actually read, enjoy, be interested in, and then here's a word that we use, start digging around. We call it diggability. Are they going to dig around on your website? The longer they dig and the deeper they dig on your website, guess what? The longer people will then stay on your website, and the more Google will push you up. See, content is going to help your website. Content is also going to help your SEO. Content, obviously, we're going to get to this in just a minute, is going to help your advertising and lead generation. Brian, do you want to jump in? Do you have any comments?
One of the things that, and it's kind of beyond, can I go back a little bit on this?
You can do anything you want. It's your webinar, my friend.
No, you know what? Keep going. I'll ask you when you wrap this up a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Write down your questions, and we'll tackle them at the end.
By the way, if anybody's got questions for Rich, just put them into the chat box, because I'm watching the chat box, and I'll be happy to respond or ask Rich the question in the chat box. The other thing too, I've got a number of questions about whether or not we're going to make a replay available of this. Rich, are you okay with making a replay available?
Now, kind of like the Soup Nazi, if you don't watch it live, you don't ever get to see it. I'm kidding. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yes, we will make it available.
Okay, so you see on your screen right now, this is a brain that looks like Google's logo. And the idea here is you got to figure out, from a search engine optimization SEO standpoint, what is it that Google really wants? And I just actually covered that a second ago. I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. So much of SEO is actually just bullcrap that people are doing to try to hack through Google's algorithm. But here's what the algorithm really wants. Think about weight loss. If you wanted to lose weight, what do you got to do? Answer. Number 1, quit eating so much. Number 2, exercise. That's it. All of these products, a gazillion and a half products that are for sale, are all hacks to make eating less and exercising easier for you to deal with. With SEO, it's basically the same thing. Number 1, you've got to have a website. If it has a lot of traffic, that's good. And number 2, if people stay on your website a long time, that is the number 1 factor and number 2 factor that Google's going to look at to determine if a website is worthy to send traffic to. Everything else is noise and hacks. And we could debate that out, and you say, well, what about this? This is important. And, like people say, well, Google wants videos. Well, why do you think Google wants videos? Because videos are interesting. But here's the problem. If you create a video full of a bunch of platitudes, now all you've done is make a video with a bunch of platitudes that nobody wants to watch, and you haven't helped yourself. It's not video that Google wants. It's interesting content. And if you happen to put it into a video, that's even better, because people will watch it and stay even longer, right? Does that make sense? So the question is, what's interesting and relevant? And the answer is, again, the exact same stuff. See, this isn't about website building. This isn't about SEO. This isn't about lead generation. This isn't about post-sale follow-up. This is about everything. It's all the same process. It's called great content every step of the way. Because why? Victory goes to one with superior forces where? At the point of contact. One point of contact, your SEO. Another point of contact, your website. Okay? So here's what we would recommend that you do. Create diggable blog posts. Instead of just generic blog posts, the 7 reasons why you should not hire a roof, why you should not attempt to fix your roof yourself. Okay, that's good. But how about this? I couldn't sleep, so I emailed an angry customer at 2:45 a.m., and then we tell the story. And the story is how you got a complaint on a review engine, but it didn't come in until 10 o'clock at night, and you saw it, and it was too late to contact the customer. So you sat there, and it just bothered you so bad that you couldn't sleep that night. So finally at 2:45 a.m., you got up and you wrote an email, and then next morning at 6 o'clock, you got your crews on the and your production manager on the phone. You said, we got to fix this. And by 7:30, somebody was contacting the customer, and by 10 a.m., the problem was fixed. That's a great blog post, right? This is telling a story. Well, what does that fall under? It falls under core values of accountability and doing the right thing. We just gave away 440 American flags for Veterans Day. We support 49 mamas in Haiti. Each is responsible for raising 10 orphans. Core values. What we did when a vendor accidentally undercharged us by $42,300. And then, of course, you would tell the story about how we made it right. We discovered this in our accounting audit, and we could have easily gotten away with not paying that vendor. They would have never known, but we paid them anyway. 20% of the time, we advise people not to buy from us. This would be under a core value of advocacy, right? So we got to find stories that map to your company, that map to your identity points. Bedside manner. Why fine my staff $10 for every minute they're late for meetings? So what is this talking about? Bedside manner, being on time. And this shows, hey, we're serious about being on time. And we drill this into our managers who drill it into our staff by making sure that they're on time. If they miss our meetings, if they're a minute late, it's $10. If they're 5 minutes late, it's $50. So far, the record is 9 minutes late because nobody wants to pay a Benjamin for being late to a meeting in our company. So when it comes to us being there at your place, you can bet we're going to be on time. How we perfected the art of accurate quoting and not making customers mad. So I'll just put some of these on the screen. You can get an idea. I like this one. Inside the creepy sales boot camps other companies send their sales reps to. Steve Renning-Camp, that'd be a great one for you to put on your website, right? Because I know you guys have this like really, really awesome 2-step, very soft close that works really, really well for you. But we could come in and expose, right? Watch for companies that use the FedEx close. Why we say no to facial hair, visible tattoos, and face piercings, okay? Workmanship. Why we use $9 tubes of caulk instead of the $3 cheap tubes. Think about that. What a great story this is. If you're a window installer, is there such a thing as cheap caulk, and is there such a thing as expensive caulk? Well, of course. Well, what's the difference? Well, one's better. Well, how? Well, let's tell the story and how over the course of a year, that extra $6 adds up to an extra $5,300 in cost for us. But it's worth it because we don't have angry customers. There's no leaks. We don't have to come back. We save us on warranties. See, tell your story. You got to point at the shower head. You could use a $9 tube of caulk all day long because it's the right thing to do and because it serves you and your customers well. But if you don't ever tell anybody about it, you don't ever point at it, you don't ever put a sign about it, you don't ever put a blog post about it, and then you don't create a video about it and stick it on Facebook, guess what? Nobody's ever going to know. And so now you just have higher costs and people are mad because you're more expensive. You got to tell your story. My installers get 0 warnings. Go ahead.
Hey, Rich, can I jump in here? So you know what's really interesting as you're looking at this and you're thinking about this, one of the ways to really think about this is that everybody out there, and when I say everybody, we're talking 95 to 98% of every contractor in your market that offers what you do, your products and services, basically says the same stupid shit that everybody else says. And when you're saying the same stuff that everybody else says, and you're showing up like everybody else shows up, how can you possibly compete on anything other than price? And price is a strategy. You cannot win the price game. There is no winning. It is a lose-lose situation. And so as you're looking at this,
let me
yeah.
So let me tell you what companies do to try to get around that. And it's a good strategy, but it falls a little bit short. So here's what the good companies will do. They still don't know how to communicate this identity. They don't know how to point at their shower head necessarily. But what they do is they take professionalism to a very high level. So they're very branded. They've got nice trucks. Their guys show up in great shirts. They're very friendly. They do all these things that make them look and feel like a very professional company. And then they spend more money than their competitors so that people hear them on the radio. They see them on TV. They see them on Facebook. So what happens is the higher end companies win because people associate the way that they look with a brand. And they associate the brand with, okay, this company is going to, do a better job because of the brand, which is true. But here's what happens. I start getting contacted by those companies when they hit $10 million and when they hit, $44 million and $30 million saying, hey, we're now competing against the other three companies that have a great brand, but we can't get past them. Okay, Now let's layer on top of that. How about this? Tell your story. Oh, then we start to really kill them. That sounds bad, but we do. We kill them. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but also, I mean, look, getting to 10 million, I know that, and you have a great book, and I know you're going to offer, we're going to offer 10 copies of the book for free. It's a great book, by the way. It's thick, but I think I read through it in, maybe a couple of 3 sittings. But, when you're at $1 million and you're trying to get to 2.5, 3 million, or you're at 2 million trying to get to 5 million, this is the stuff that's going to make you stand out from everybody else, which is kind of where, Rich started with this. And that's the game here, is how do you stand out from the noise of everybody else and all the crap that people are, the word platitude is so interesting. That's what is out there. Everybody says, oh, we have great workmanship. Everybody says we've been in business for all this time. But look at these, when you look at it as a story, like what Rich is talking about, it puts you in a whole nother category. And not only with your lead generation, but also the relationships that you develop with the customer, because now they know more about you. They know a story. And one of the big things, and I'll stop after this, Rich, so we could start wrapping up here. But when you think about referrals, which is a big area for us where we help companies make more referrals, one of the things that you need in order to successfully make referrals is you need to give your customer a story to tell other people. Right? You can't just, if you just show up again like everybody else and do what everybody else does, there's no story to tell you. They'll forget about you. And when you do stuff like this, why we use $9 tubes of caulk instead of $3 cheap tubes, I mean, you could just take that alone. And there's now a story that your customer can go tell their friends and family about you. You become memorable. And this is what's going to help you charge more, sell more, develop better relationships with your customers so that you make money in the long term. So this is really, really this is great stuff.
What you just said, I'm actually going to get to that here in just a second, but I could not agree with you more. The number one thing you could ever do to get more referrals, well, it's actually two things. Number one, have a great identity so that the stories are there. And then number two, I mean, you just got to ask for them. That's where G4 comes in. Okay, let me wrap this up and then we'll get everybody off for the rest of their day. I'm just going to kind of go through this next couple slides quickly to show you we can create this based on any of these identity points. So just take a look at those real quick and we're going to keep going. And I'm going to actually go past that. So the third step, so step 1 was website, 2, SEO, 3 is advertising. To create advertising, now all we got to do is repurpose the stuff that we just wrote for the blog posts. Okay? So if you really want to make the jump to $10 million, you want to grow your company, you've just got to find a way to reach a lot of people at a reasonable cost per 1,000 people. Radio, TV, Facebook, it doesn't matter where. It just matters that you've got a good cost per thousand, and that you got a good target. And then identity. It becomes identity, all right? You can see examples of this. Just go to level10contractor.com and then click on services and then radio and TV. Okay, so Level 10, and I'm giving you this link so you can go watch TV commercials and you can listen to radio ads that have identity that'll blow you away, knock your socks off. I was going to say blow your socks off, but anyway, you got it. Level10contractor.com, click on services and then radio and TV, and then you'll see this page that has a bunch of examples that you can just spend some time digging around in, okay? You know what? I think I'm just going to go through this part quickly, Brian. Yeah. Talking about putting this into ads. This is a guy that we call the persnickety remodeler. I can honestly care less if you have 3 remodelers who are cheaper than me. You know, persnickety, demanding, hard to please, and I'm your remodeler. We're not the fastest, we're not the cheapest. According to our customers, we're the best. This is their home show stuff. The left is a flyer that they hand out at the home shows. The 2 things on the right side of your screen now are pop-up banners. I love this one in the middle. Ruin my vacation, interrupt my dinner, wake me up at 2 a.m. What is this point talking about? Accessibility. My only concern is that your job is 100% perfect. Here's my cell number. This is on a banner at a home show. Meanwhile, you've got dumb junk on your banners at your home show that people see, and it's pretty pictures, and they walk by and they go, okay. They walk by this and they go, what? Oh, crap. I could expect this guy to pay very careful attention to me and to do the job right. He's very accessible. I can tell. Here's his cell number on a stinking banner, okay? And then postcards that we send out. I mean, this stuff goes into everything. This identity is a global concept for your marketing. This is an appointment reminder email. Most remodelers hate dealing with high-maintenance customers who complain about wanting everything, little thing a certain way. Those are the kind I get along with, okay? And then let's go to step 4, post-sale. This is what we were just talking about a second ago, Brian, and this is something I'm really passionate about, and I know you're even more passionate about it than I am. If you have a strong identity, you're going to get a ton of identity-specific reviews. First of all, these now become evidence. You'll also get a lot more referrals. Instead of just another company, you're going to stand out. You're special. But if you want to make this happen, you have to stay in front of them, okay? I'm going to tell you something that you may not know, not you, Brian, but you listeners on this webinar. If you don't have a strong identity and you don't reach out to your customers after the sale, within about 2 years, they will literally forget your company name. And when somebody comes to them and says, hey, did you get some siding? You know, I'm looking at siding. Oh, yeah, we had a company. They were great. Really, who was it? Oh, man, what was that guy's name? I think it was Jeff. Man, what was that dude, Jeff? Like quality siding something. I can't remember. That's called reality. It happens way more often than you think. But if you've got a great identity, they remember. And Brian, if you want to speak to this slide, I mean, this is the stuff that you knocked the ball out of the park with.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically, what we're doing is, like I said earlier, we're creating that sticky relationship with the customer so they don't forget about you. And so when the opportunity comes up for a referral, when the opportunity comes up for another sale, you're top of mind, you're right there in front of them. And if you guys are interested, just reach out to us or put something in the chat box, and we'll reach out to you and talk to you about the program.
Okay, great. In fact, let's go ahead and wrap this up now. Appreciate everybody's time. If you're interested, we just launched a daily podcast. It's quite a bit different. I know, like, The Wealthy Contractor is a great podcast. It's interviewing a lot of the most successful companies in the industry. I love that podcast. I listened to it. Man, your one about mentors, I thought really was awesome. It just struck a lot of chords that were right on par with my experience. This podcast is a little bit different. This is more like daily tips and ideas for marketing. So it's not a lot of interviews per se. There are a couple, but it's a different format. So check that out if you want. Level 10 Contractor Daily Podcast. You can find it on Spotify or Apple. And then, we're going to offer a free copy of the book, Unlocking Unlimited Lead Flow. We're going to do 2 polls right now. So if you do me a favor and just hang out for another minute or so. Brian, can you launch those polls? Let's launch the first one, which is...
Yeah, this one is, if you want to schedule, here, I'm going to go with this. If you want to schedule a strategy session with G4. Just answer the poll, and or if you don't, just go ahead and answer. I'm okay with a no, and obviously I'm much happier with yeses, but just let us know. By the way, one of the things I'm going to do in just a second is for everybody that is on here, I'm gonna I want to give you a little bit of information about our live event coming up in February, along with a coupon code where you can save a couple of bucks on your ticket. So just another few seconds here on this poll. Go ahead, and about half of you have voted. They call it voting. A few more. All right, cool. Let's end that one. And then who wants a copy of Rich's book? Who wants a copy? Just hit yes. Oh wow. Lots. Oh, Rich, we went past 10 already.
That's okay. I'll just make you pay for it. No big deal.
No big deal. I'll do it. It's worth it. It's a great
No, I'm kidding. We'll get those out to you. We got a giant stack of them sitting over here because quite frankly, nobody bought them. I'm kidding. We have it. Lots of people buy them, but we will give them away to your folks, Brian. Appreciate you having us on the webinar today.
Yeah. No, it's a good book. I mean, you guys should all read it. You know, it's specifically targeted for home improvement businesses, and yeah. Oh, you're gonna send out a lot of books, Rich, but which is great.
Okay.
I'm happy you guys are doing that. Let me just do one other thing here, Rich, is I'm going to put in the chat box to everybody here. I'm giving you a link to our Accelerate Live event. Go check that out. That's happening February 5th and 6th here in South Florida. This is an owner's event. It's an owner's event. It's a lot different than most every event that you've been to in the home improvement industry. You could check out some information there, and I put a coupon code in there, and that'll save you a few bucks on your ticket. So in closing here, Rich, hold on, let me
let me make one comment just real quick. I know some people, I was reading some of the chats, had to bail out a couple minutes early. If you're listening to this on replay, my contact information is on the screen, or it was. My email is rich@level10contractor.com. Shoot me an email about the free book. If you missed the poll, no problem. We'll get you hooked up. Just put free book in the subject line, and I'll get you taken care of.
Yeah, cool. That's great. All right, so look, great stuff here, Rich. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this. Hey, look, we still have most everybody on the line. Let me ask one other question, then I gotta go. One of the things that I think is really powerful when it comes to identity and the messaging that you put out there is using your face, you as the owner of the business, because people buy from people. They want to. So many people want to put out, and if you can just speak to this for a minute, they want to put out advertising that looks corporate, that looks like, oh, we're a big company. Where to me, it's, as much as I hate using my face, believe it or not, I got to use my face on everything, and I freaking hate it. But I know that it helps people connect with, hey, this is a real live guy. What's your take on contractors using themselves as part of their, let's just call it branding or their image?
Well, so let me go macro on that one. Yeah. I think if you're comfortable doing it and you have a baseline level of attractiveness, and I'm trying to say that nicely. I've seen some real ugly suckers put their picture on stuff, and you shouldn't do that. But as long as you're a normal looking person and you're comfortable, I think it's a great idea. However, I also want you to know if you're not comfortable, and I know a lot of business owners that are not, then that's okay too. But even if you don't use your image in your photograph and your voice on radio or your face on TV or on your website, you still need to tell your story, because your story is what's going to resonate with people. And, you know, that can be integrated into a website for sure. And John Woolsey, what is your website? Montgomery Winslow Roofing, I think, in Florida. Google that and find that. Read the About Us page, and his photo is not on there, I don't think. It might be, but I mean, the story is what makes the difference. So if you can take a story and match it with a face, awesome. But I 100% agree with you, Brian, on this point, that people want to do business with people, and they want to do business with people that they feel like have a reason that they do things the way that they do, not just that they exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I say do more of it. Even if you're not the best looking in the you know, in the town, iPhone's got a lot of filters on it. We can, you know, you could clean it up and make it look good.
Well, I'll give you an example. Let me give you a real specific example. I've got a company in Kansas City that I do business with, a James Hardy dealer.
Yeah.
And the owner of the business is an older lady. She's in her 60s.
Yeah.
And doesn't necessarily match real well to a lot of their customers. Now, their son runs a lot of the leads, but he's in his early 30s.
Yeah.
So we actually decided, you know, this one a little bit on the old side, this one a little on the young and inexperienced side. So we actually went not with them, but we're still telling their story. So
yeah.
it kind of depends. I don't want somebody to feel like if they don't put their picture on there that, you know, oh my gosh, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
I think you're going to win more with your picture, but I think you can do awesome. Tell your story. Help people understand who you are, where you're coming from, what your history is, what your background is. That can all be integrated and weaved into this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Rich, great stuff. We're getting a lot of really good feedback here from people on that have been here with us for over an hour now. Wow, hour 20 minutes. But great stuff, Rich. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody that is that's listening or watching this, thanks for being here. Hope you got a ton of value out of this. Get a copy of Rich's book. Listen to his podcast. It's really good. Of course, listen to The Wealthy Contractor as well. They're different, but I think very complementary. I mean, after I listened to one of Rich's first podcasts, I called him and I called her, I texted you, and I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I mean, the content that you gave out on that was pretty amazing. I mean, I think you were doing it like a strategy session with somebody, and I was just amazed at at what you were delivering and putting out there. So it's good stuff. Go there, get a copy of his book, get a ticket to Accelerate if you're an owner that wants to grow and make more money, and that's it. Thank you, everybody. See you next month. Bye-bye.